Welcome to today's Explainer. Have you ever actually wondered why so many historical utopias, those intentional communities built on the promise of a perfect, harmonious life, eventually just collapse? Well, the author of our source text today, Sheng Feng, did a historical review and concluded that there's actually a single ultimate assassin of ideal communities. And surprisingly, it's not war, it's not famine, and it's not even a lack of resources. It's laziness. So today, we're going to explore exactly why this text argues that historical utopias fail, and we'll walk through one community's incredibly radical, absolutely uncompromising strategy for survival.
Just listen to the sheer urgency of the author's epidemiological metaphor here. We usually think of laziness as just a bad habit, right? Maybe hitting the snooze button a few too many times on a Monday. But in this text, laziness isn't some minor character flaw. It's treated as a literal, existential medical threat. Just look at the language used: AIDS, cancer, viral dysentery, robbers, and devils. The author frames idleness as an active, destructive infection that's basically guaranteed to spread and kill the community if it isn't completely eradicated. Before we get into the specific symptoms of this disease, we really need to understand the patient. The community at the center of this essay is called the Home Without Marriage and Family, and its members refer to themselves as Chanyon Celestials. This is a highly unique, intentional community that literally views its daily existence as a life-and-death struggle against idleness. For them, defeating this virus isn't just a nice-to-have goal. It is the absolute fundamental requirement for their utopia to function and ultimately to survive.
The text sets up a strict, totally uncompromising moral binary. There are absolutely zero gray areas here. On one side, you have diligence. This symbolizes beauty, a guaranteed good future, and God's blessing. Hard work is literally considered divine. On the flip side, laziness represents ugliness and spiritual decay. It's an infection that the author claims turns people into walking corpses. It's a stark, intense contrast that leaves no room whatsoever for casual leisure.
And if this is left unchecked, the author maps out what is described as a guaranteed downward spiral. It all starts with just being a lazy man, who then devolves into a mediocre, ordinary man. Stripped of any real purpose, that person transforms into a complaining man. All that complaining breeds inner turmoil, turning him into a painful man. And finally, ultimately, he becomes a misfortune man. The core argument is that dodging labor inevitably transforms a person into an embodiment of misfortune itself. You don't just have bad luck, you literally become it.
Section 1. Diagnosing the virus. The 8 symptoms of laziness.
So, just like a medical text, the essay breaks down the warning signs to identify a dangerous outbreak. The first 4 observable symptoms are really all about daily behavioral red flags. It starts with outright parasitism, seeking ease while reaping the fruits of other people's labor, along with general, irresponsible loafing. But interestingly, it also includes erratic sleep schedules. Staying up too late and waking up exhausted is treated as a major warning sign. And fascinatingly, indulging in aimless games while others are out there working is categorized right alongside the serious offense of living off another person's hard work.
Then we move to the final 4 symptoms, and these diagnose a much deeper psychological decay. It goes way beyond just fearing hardship or greedy eating and sleeping. The text highlights a particularly toxic communal threat: complaining and attacking industrious people. This is where the infected person actually tries to drag the hard workers down to their level. Combine that with a constant stream of empty excuses that accomplish absolutely nothing, and you have severe, undeniable symptoms of the virus.
The crucial takeaway here is captured absolutely perfectly in this traditional proverb the author uses: running water never becomes putrid, and a door hinge is never worm-eaten. Think about that imagery for a second. Constant, diligent motion is framed as the only natural defense against structural and spiritual rot. If the water stops flowing, it stagnates, right? It breeds disease. While if the community stops working, it decays from the inside out. Action is quite literally the only preservative.
All right, so having diagnosed the horrific symptoms of the disease, the text immediately pivots. It asks this massive, high-stakes question: how to carry out the life-and-death fighting with laziness. Because remember, they do not see this as just a bad habit to be managed, they see it as a cancer that has to be excised. Section 2. The Quarantine Protocol. 8 Rules for Survival.
Let's examine these uncompromising rules designed to purge the viral threat from the homeland entirely. The first half of this protocol dictates some incredibly severe isolation. Lazy people, flat out denied entry.
Impenitent members face absolute banishment. But honestly, perhaps the most intense measure is that treating laziness with tolerance or pity is actually considered a crime against the home. By explicitly criminalizing sympathy and ensuring total public disdain for lazy individuals, they guarantee the virus is shown absolutely no mercy.
And then the second half shifts gears to preventative social engineering. It demands zero association with the infected. They use this interesting phrase, one radish, one hole, which basically means every single task is strictly assigned, leaving absolutely no loopholes where laziness can hide. They even go as far as mandating community studies to psychologically root out lazy thoughts before they can even manifest into action. And on the flip side, the ultimate positive reinforcement is awarded, bestowing the highest possible honors upon the most diligent members.
But here's the thing. Rules alone just aren't enough. The text makes it crystal clear that the ultimate cure relies entirely on extreme personal ownership. The community belongs to all Chanyuan Celestials. The author explicitly warns that viewing the community as a hotel, a private company, or even the leader's personal manor is a huge, dangerous cognitive mistake. Every single member has to act as a master of the home rather than just some passive guest or a hired employee. The logic is simple. When you truly own the home, you fight to protect it from rot. This really frames the community's struggle against a massive historical and even biblical backdrop. Just consider the tragedy of Eden. Adam and Eve were exiled simply because they didn't treasure paradise enough to maintain it. Contrasted right against this is the Chanyuan Celestials' mission. They believe they have to actively, daily, defeat laziness just to reach their ideal shore. They essentially view history as a cautionary tale of humanity losing paradise to idleness, and they are fiercely determined not to let history repeat itself.
So, we're going to wrap up this explainer with the stark, ultimate question posed right in the text. Survive or die. There is no middle ground here. The essay really forces us to look at how a utopian vision can view a common human trait as a lethal virus that has to be quarantined and destroyed. It leaves us to ponder if absolute, unrelenting diligence is truly the only way a utopian can survive. Does that cure demand too much of human nature? Or is it literally the only proven way to actually protect paradise? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me as we unpack this fascinating source material. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.